With Ford's help, Shelby's Cobra was created. Lacocca asked the legendary Shelby to turn the Mustang into a high-performance vehicle. And Shelby jumped at this opportunity. Shelby called the car the GT 350. Everybody else called it the Shelby Mustang or the Shelby GT. From the start, there were two cars planned, a racer and a street car. Like the other Mustangs, the GT 350 came with a long list of options. And soon, Shelby's GT Mustangs were winning national championships. Hertz even offered a special black rental version of the GT 350. Some people rented, raced, and then returned the cars. Ford reaped many publicity rewards from these racing efforts. And the GT 350 sales soon went from 500 to over 2,000 cars. The race cars looked like the street versions, and people wanted to go that fast. '66 was a great year for Ford and the Mustang. In March, just 1.5 years after its introduction, the 1 millionth pony car was sold. It would take Chevrolet 40 years to sell 1 million Corvettes. But it was clear that the Mustang was about to be challenged. The next year, General Motors introduced the Pontiac Firebird and the Chevrolet Camaro. These cars were more expensive than the Mustang, but GM's V8 engine and smoother ride enticed some buyers. Ford responded by adding a larger V8 engine and more interior room to the Mustang. This space race added inches and refinements even to the GT 350. The emphasis was shifting to luxury and comfort. By 1968, Mustang sales were plummeting, while the rest of the auto industry thrived.
In her '68 Mustang Fastback, the PhD was pure TNT. Mustang '68, with great options like
Ford blamed the decline on competition from other automakers.
The original, a better idea than ever for '68.
Even American Motors was now building a pony car. Other Ford models were also a factor. All Fords started to become more powerful, and the Mustang was no longer unique. Ford knew that some buyers would have opted for a Mustang if the others hadn't been available. In April of 1968, Mustang lovers grinned with delight. Their pony car would soon have a new, powerful engine. The Shelby Mustangs were also updated. A new front end and a new engine, the Cobra Jet V8, and a new model, the GT 500. The GT 500 soon outsold the GT 350 by 2 to 1. The biggest news for 1968 wasn't the Mustang's changes. It was an event that shocked Lee Iacocca. Henry Ford lured Seaman Bunky Knudsen away from General Motors and made him president of the Ford Motor Company. Iacocca was devastated. He'd wanted the job. Why Ford did this is unclear. It was rumored he was bored with Detroit, was considering a post with the Johnson administration, and just wasn't comfortable leaving Ford in Lee Iacocca's hands. The tension between Ford and Iacocca put Knudsen in a very tough place.
Henry Ford brought Bunky Knudsen into the company. Lee Iacocca didn't want him there, so he was clearly between a rock and a hard place. And you can say Henry Ford was the rock and Lee Iacocca was the hard place, but whatever it was disastrous for Bunky Knudsen and disastrous for any people that followed him to Ford. They all suffered as a result.
One of the people Knudsen brought along was a former co-worker, Larry Shinoda. Shinoda was famous for designing the original Corvette Stingray and several stunning concept cars. When Shinoda arrived, it was too late for him to change the 1969 Mustang. He wanted the car to deliver on what its looks promised. He wanted it to be faster and bolder.
Well, the 69 Mustang, the production car was basically finished. And my job was to straighten the thing out as far as doing the Boss Mustang. They needed a Trans Am car to compete against the C28 Camaro.
His answer? A sleeker, sexier car in 4 models. The Mark I, the Luxury Grand, the Boss 302, and the Boss 429. Some say that these were the most beautiful Mustangs. They were the fastest production models. And they were a clear challenge to the Camaros and the Firebird Trans Ams. The Cobra jet engine was king. Then, just as Shelby's 302 started to win, he shocked the racing world. In October of 1969, Carroll Shelby retired. His heart problems forced him to quit the car business. Other Mustangs were doing well on the track, and Ford moved on. Mustang wasn't able to translate its racing success into sales. They continued to slip. Not enough people responded to the bigger, bossier cars. They seemed to want the sleek pony car that they'd originally fallen in love with. At the end of 1969, Henry Ford fired Knudsen. Ford gave him no reason, except it just didn't work out.
I found out about it over the Labor Day weekend. Ted Mackey told me that Mr. Ford was going to talk to me the following day. Well, the next day Henry came in about 10 o'clock. He usually came to work about 10 in the morning. And came into my office and told me. I asked him, would he please tell me what I had done or why he no longer wanted my services. The only answer he gave me and he gave anybody else was it just didn't work out. Whatever that meant, I don't have any idea. He refused to say anything else.
Later, Ford said he thought Knudsen was setting up a spy network at Ford, and that he alienated other executives. In just 1 year, Iacocca's dreams came true. Finally, he was the president of the Ford Motor Company. Sales continued to fall in the 1970s. The total performance car was on the way out. Gas shortages and government emission regulations made many people turn to smaller cars. Ford executives said compact cars were just a fad. They were sure that people would come back to the bigger cars, like the Mustang had become. As the car became bigger, more people lost interest, even the stylists.
There was a 69 model and a 70 model, which I had, I did most of the design work. And then, then I was gone, and they did continue, and they did a Boss 351, which was a 71 model, which was the Mustang that I didn't much care for. I didn't have anything to do with that one. That was kind of a Knudsen, Gail Halderman car. I always used to call it the aircraft carrier.
Even on the racetrack, the car was slipping. Ford was focusing on complying with emission and safety regulations and ignoring racing. The big American cars were losing out to the slimmer and sleeker European cars, like the Porsches. The Mustang had lost its way on the track and on the streets. Ford was stuck with the big, hefty Mustang while the public demanded smaller cars. Sales continued to drop, except for the convertible model. Sales were up nearly 100% for the ragtop. Ford had announced that 1973 would be the last year for the Mustang Convertible, and people snapped up this piece of history. It was Ford's last soft top for a decade. Nine years had passed since the Mustang was released. Although much had changed, the basics were still there. The car was still inexpensive and came with a long list of options. So what had gone wrong? One executive pinpointed the problem. He said, the car started out as a secretary car, and all of a sudden we had a behemoth. The Maverick's success showed the way. A smaller Mustang. In the fall of 1973, the new Mustang made its debut. This Mustang had a long hood and a short deck like the original, but on a much smaller scale. But unfortunately, the powerful, beloved V8 was gone. And then the motoring magazine Motor Trend named the 1974 Mustang its car of the year. During its 5-year production run, the Mustang II changed very little. But it kept losing ground to more fuel-efficient cars. Other small cars were clobbering the Mustang.
It was sort of a dry heaves. I couldn't figure out what they were going to get done. It lost its mystique. It didn't look different. It was a lousy execution, and somewhere along the line you get disgusted.
Ford tried to rev up sales in 1978 with the King Cobra model. Snazzy paint, snappy decals, and a coiled Cobra on the hood were part of the package. Sales picked up, but just barely. The Mustang magic had fizzled. In July of 1978, Iacocca was fired. Henry Ford would only say that he just didn't like him. In his defense, Iacocca reminded Ford that the company had made a lot of money that year. But Ford didn't sack Iacocca because of money. Later he said Iacocca was too conceited and self-centered. Phil Caldwell replaced Iacocca. The faltering economy and an oil crisis kept Mustang sales down. Ford hoped a planned styling change would get the Mustang back on track. Under Caldwell, the next Mustang was introduced. The designers wanted the car to be as aerodynamic as possible. Their theme was form follows function. In the end, this Mustang was the sleekest car Ford had ever made. The 1979 Mustang revived the spirit of the pony car everybody so loved. Sales shot up to 370,000 cars, a 100% improvement. The magazine Car and Driver called the Mustang America's most significant new car. It was the Indianapolis 500 pace car, and 11,000 replicas were sold. The Mustang celebrated its 15th birthday in 1980, complete with a long list of options. Mustang lovers smiled. Ford revived Mustang racing. A special turbocharged Mustang was driven by a former Porsche driver. Once again, the racers got factory backing. This renewed interest in performance spawned the 5-liter V8 engine in 1982. But the Mustang was becoming a victim of its time. Sales dropped to an astonishingly low 130,000 cars. The entire auto industry was suffering during the recession. Unfortunately, the new Mustang's debut coincided with the slump. Ford hoped a convertible would revive sales. But not even that would help. For the rest of the 1980s, the Mustang floundered. Foreign sports cars took a big bite out of the market, and the economy was flat. The Ford Motor Company was awash with red ink, and thousands of people were laid off. Mustang development was on the back burner while Ford struggled to survive. By the end of the decade, Ford considered putting the Mustang out to pasture.
And then the letters started coming. And it was the darndest thing you've ever seen. I really don't know how many letters we got, but something like 100,000. And they were just irate. Every letter was nasty. I mean, nobody was kind. Nobody said you're really a marketing genius or anything else. They said, you're the dumbest bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. How can you do away with this car? And there was just, I've never seen so many letters. I've never seen such consistency in every one of them. That this is an icon in the American automobile industry. How can you do this? How can any company be that stupid? And they really got down and they questioned your ancestry and several other things, but it was just amazing in all these communications about how people felt Mustang was unique and how it had to be a Mustang. It couldn't be something else.
Ford got the message. They now wanted to unveil a new Mustang to celebrate its 30th anniversary, but time was short. It was already 1989, and usually it took 5 to 6 years to develop a car. Ford had no time to lose. A small group of engineers, designers, and assembly line workers banded together to form Team Mustang. They set up shop in a converted warehouse and went to work on saving the Mustang. It was a huge task, but they knew that the fate of the pony car was in their hands.
I went ahead and put that group together back in August of '89. We started formally meeting around late September, early October, and we actually started doing work around November of 1989. And that's how it all got kicked off. And that program, once we actually got something concrete going, that evolved into Team Mustang.
In 1990, Team Mustang got the go-ahead for their plans. The innovative program was a radical departure from normal company policies. Because of the group's structure, many bosses had to hand over the reins to their employees. Time was of the essence. The Mustang for the 1990s was underway. Stylists looked at the Mustang's 30-year history and listened to customers.
It was a very unusual situation that you had a car with this strong a heritage, this kind of name recognition, and that Ford had a dilemma in how do you continue this thing into the future and satisfy the guys that want, the purists that want this car to stay true to its 1960 theme, if you will, okay, and yet bring it into the 20th century. I mean, the year 2000, I mean, 21st century.
It was a tall order, creating a car with the nostalgic look that captured the feel of the original, and yet integrated modern technology. The styling team came up with 3 models to choose from. The first was dubbed the Bruce Jenner. It had rounded lines and soft styling. It was fit and trim, like the athlete. The second design, Rambo, was for the person who wanted a wild new car, glitzy and powerful. It reminded some of the Batmobile. The third design terminated the rest. The Arnold Schwarzenegger was a cross between the others, rugged but cultured.
3, 2, 1.
It became the next Mustang. The new car was unveiled on October the 4th, 1993. Team Mustang had made its deadline, and for $200 million less than budgeted. The new Mustang was ready just in time to celebrate its 30th birthday. April of 1994, exactly 30 years after its original launch, thousands of Mustang fans gathered in Charlotte, North Carolina, to pay tribute to their favorite car.
Just try and get some more of it all.
Yeah, you know, that's a 68 big car number with that.
They came up with the emission, after all the emissions came in, a big change.
Even the president bought his Mustang. While the new Mustang struck a responsive chord with the public, Don Fry offered his observations.
If they keep on what they're doing and keep setting a style and functional trend, it'll have a good future. Keep your foot on it. That's a piece of America. That's a symbol of our country.
Mustang mania is unique. More than 6 million cars have been sold since 1964. That's over 545 cars a day for 30 years. It has survived recessions, corporate intrigue, government regulations, fickle buyers, and many U.S. presidents. After a narrow escape, the Mustang is once again running free.